On this week's episode of Three Dad Bods,
we talk about the 80s. Was the 80s the greatest decade in history?
So, I remember Dad came home one day after shopping at Sears, and this giant truck pulls up, and like 19 people pull our brand new TV set that had to weigh like 500 pounds, that had the speakers on the side of it, and the what we thought was a giant screen, but man, you had to have like a support system to keep it from crashing.
Sarcastic, witty, and not afraid to mix it up. Pop open a cold one and welcome to Three Dad Bods.
Bienvenidos a todos a otra incorporación de tres cuerpos de papa con Brent, Caro y Sean. ¿Cómo estás, chicos?
Espanol.
Sorry.
Good. How are you?
Bonito.
Bonito?
Or grande.
Oh, okay. You're the guy in the restaurant that's like, yeah, I'd like a quesadilla and a tamal and a burrito, please.
And a chimichanga. How you doing, Sean? You look as sour as a piece of rock candy my grandma would give me. Yeah, from the 60s.
Salty.
I'm just thinking about you down in Tijuana saying, yeah, I'd like the grande. I'd like it grande.
Ay, grande.
That's
Grande. Pequeño.
Oh my gosh.
Grande.
Poquito.
You're the kind of tourist that would get in a lot of trouble somewhere.
Oh, incredible trouble.
You'd end up at some bar that you didn't intend on being in.
No, he would put his
grande.
foot in his mouth is what he would do.
I would probably try to use my limited Spanish vocabulary and probably say something so insulting that the Sonora, what are they called? Cartel had me strung up and, from my feet, my toes, naked, lying in the streets in Tijuana somewhere.
They wouldn't do that.
You don't lie on the streets. They hang you upside down from an overpass is what they do.
If they're
Can you
going to do
imagine
that,
Like,
they're going to do that to torture other people. Has nothing to do with you.
Hey, good news though, Carl. I don't think they have a crane that could pull you up. So.
Oh, that was cold. That was harsh. Man. We're rough this morning.
Ooh. Wow.
I have to take a pause and drink some more Diet Dr. Pepper now on that.
Wow.
No. All right. So how do you guys do
Cartel? We thought that we would put together an episode this week of the 80s and today. And as Carl, we were kind of talking about earlier, yes, we grew up in the 70s, but I think the 80s are what are vivid in our imaginations and most of our memories, at least together, take place in the 80s. So I put together a list of just some things that we had or we did in the 80s. And we'll kind of go through them and, laugh and giggle or, throw it out the door or whatnot on some things that we did. And then what we'll do is we'll have Sean kind of bring up some points later on about things we have today that we didn't have back into the 80s. And then Carl can give us kind of a rundown on like our cost comparisons between today and the 80s and stuff. So kind of excited. Bring back some memories and kind of maybe remember some things and then remember how things used to be for a lot of our stuff.
What, the greatest decade of any lifetime or any time period in the world history, the 80s, Brent?
But I was thinking as I was putting this stuff together because, like my kids would be like, how did you do it without having this? Or how did you do it without having that? And in my head, like, well, this is the greatest time in the world. And, I think about people like in the 20s or like in the 1800s who didn't have air conditioning, But like if you talk to those guys, like somebody from 1870, they'd be like, oh, no, that was the greatest time we ever had. It was so peaceful. And I had my horse and buggy, and we'd be like, no, man, you had a horse with flies, and there was no air conditioning, and it took you like 19 days to go 45 miles. Be like, yeah, it's the greatest time in the world.
All right. Or you hear the people from the 50s talking about walking up and down, uphill 5 miles and uphill back home 5 miles, where you can laugh and go to Victoria, England, and say, at least you didn't have to walk in shit to school every day, which is what they did. So, it's, every decade we seem to changed that whole conversation.
The air.
And
if you go to England, if you go to some of these older cities, I mean, anything other than the U.S. is older than us, but the soot that's on the buildings that have been there for 300-400 years because of all the stuff that you had to burn to stay warm, it's completely different from today. The air quality within the city of London, they're famous for it being really, really horrible in the 1800s, 1700s, and crazy.
Here's my question: Are kids gonna be like us though? Our kids gonna be like, man, the 2020s were like the rippingest time to be alive. I mean, it was the best time to ever be alive.
Yeah, they will, and you know why? Because they were not responsible for a mortgage. They were not working 60 hours a week. They were having fun with their friends. Everything that a teenager does that's fun. Other things that, we probably shouldn't talk about, but of course they will. And I hope for my own kids, I hope that they do have those great memories, the same kind of, maybe not the same memories that I've got, but the same happiness and joy that I've got thinking about my friends and having fun with them.
Well, I will say this, and this could lead into Brent talking about some of the things in the 80s that made the 80s special. One thing my son told me the other day is it's like, well, what's on your music list? And he's like, Def Leppard. Like, really? And I mean, I was like, really? And he's like, yeah. And I said, well, what else? Journey? I'm like, okay, this is getting good. What else? And so he started going through. I'm like, oh my gosh, that sounds like what would be my playlist from the 80s. And I said,
what wasn't on his
so
playlist,
why don't you
Carl?
listen to
Oingo Boingo?
Shut up. I'm more eclectic than you, so more sophisticated than you.
So they really were.
I'm not saying that they aren't. I'm just saying the list of bands that you were listening to at the time probably isn't on their list.
Have you ever gone to a school dance these days? All they play is rap and
no, Carl. I'm married. I'm not picking girls up at school dances anymore.
Okay, shut up. Okay, you've had teenagers though. I mean, the music they listen to that's like popular today, like this week, this young thing that was
a lot of Taylor Swift at these dances.
Yeah, well, Taylor Swift, and then have you heard of SZA? Do you know who she is? Zava. Anyway, I mean, there's all kinds of these. Yeah, and it's like, some people from this, people who grew up in the 60s and 70s, like music lost its soul in the 80s. And I just think the 80s were kind of that in-between period where you had still leftover music from the 70s and 60s, and then we had our own unique brand of music. I mean, it was a good decade. And
what better could that be,
Yeah.
Well, exactly,
all right,
Brent.
Which bands did that?
You kind of did too, didn't you?
Twisted Sister? Kiss?
Yeah, his
Motley
Kiss.
Crue. They started out with a little paint and stuff on them. Poison. Yeah, they all did, And then grunge kind of came in through the 90s and got rid of the high-pitched singing and down into the growly push rock stuff, and yeah. We had great music, man. We really did. So I've got the list here. Let me kind of go down some stuff here, and we'll kind of talk about these items. So the first thing is the OG of gaming systems, the Atari.
Oh, yeah.
And when the Atari came out with this little block characters and terrible graphics compared to what they are now, but it was the thing. You had Pong, the two little blocks side by side that would bounce the ball around, and
I think that was the 70s, wasn't it? The Pong.
Well, it was kind of
maybe a transition.
Late
I don't know.
70s, early 80s, but it was right in that time period. And the basketball was like the basketball player looked like this.
Looked like a question mark with a digital period.
Yeah, Pong came out in 1972, so
did it
really?
Remember? But the Atari,
do you remember, Brent, those little hand ones though, where you would you'd have that little orange dot and you just like get it to the basketball hoop that was pre-printed on it? Yeah, it's like that was kind of funny too.
Well, the football game.
Yeah,
that one was football game. Just the same one, yeah.
And I now kind of before the Atari, we had those little computer, like there was the Atari computer. I don't know if you guys remember that. There was the Commodore.
Commodore 64.
And the games came on cassette tapes.
I remember my dad, so he owned that ticket company, and he came home with a computer, like a real PC. This was like 85 or 86. It was 50 megabytes, and it had the floppy disk, you know? And I was like, oh, yeah, they were like that big, and they had 2 megabyte storage, Sean. That was like impressive.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That was
2.5.
Big time.
And I got Sim City, and I was like, this is the coolest program I've ever seen in the world. And then my dad's friend gave me Leisure Suit Larry, and I was like, that's a freaking awesome CD. How can I get her clothes off?
Yeah. Leisure Suit Larry.
that was such a cringe.
So funny.
Video game.
Next, I have the OG encyclopedias.
I mean,
and I remember growing up, we had a set of encyclopedias, but they were from like 19, you know. So
did you guys have World Book or Britannia in your home?
Britannica. And in 4th grade, I got an award for reading the encyclopedias from A to Z because you had reading time, and I hated reading books, but I would rather read about information, and I read the encyclopedias from A to Z.
Was that why you thought you knew everything? Because you literally didn't read everything. Okay.
I was the OG of Google is what I was. Ask Brent. Ask Brent.
Well, what the hell happened, Brent? Why can't you remember any of that now?
All right. So, next, typewriters. And every house had a typewriter. We had the old typewriter that was not electric. And then I remember when we got the electric typewriter, and it had the button for not backspace, but it would automatically put the white out on it when you had to delete a word. That was like incredible technology.
All right, Brent, what's new?
So this item was kind of a self-identifier. This kind of showed who you were, what your likes were to everybody else in school. But metal lunchboxes.
Oh yeah. Yeah, like I was in themed lunchboxes.
Scooby-Doo, MASH.
Well, what was yours? I had a black hole.
That's who you were.
I knew I was going to get shit for that. Anybody have a Star Wars one?
I had a Hulk.
I did have a Star Wars, and the one I remember, the Hulk.
Sean,
one I remember the most. Scooby-Doo was my longest.
Hulk and
what's that?
Fantastic Four.
Scooby-Doo was my longest one.
I didn't catch that, Brent.
Let's see, Black Hole, and then I had a Star Wars one. It was Luke Skywalker, and then Indiana Jones. I think there was one too. So I wanted Jones, that. I coveted it, but my mom never got it.
Weren't you in high school when Indiana Jones came out? You still had a lunchbox in high school?
No, middle school.
It was middle school.
Okay. Yeah, it was like 82, wasn't it? When Indiana Jones came out.
I don't remember.
How young do you think I am, Sean?
Well, I mean,
yeah. Well, I think like I think in high school though, in the 80s though, no one would be caught dead with a themed lunchbox by 85 because it was all brown bags. You had to have your brown bag lunch. So,
all right. Next, do you remember going down the hall? And this is in grade school, and you would put your money in and get your pencil, but they were of NFL football teams.
Oh yeah, that was cool.
That was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And then you would trade them with other people. You'd be like, man, I got a Pittsburgh Steeler one here, and you'd be like, oh, I got a Dallas. Like you trade them with your friends and stuff.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, that's true.
I always got I got like Tampa Bay, doing that. Like, dang it, nobody would trade. Nobody would trade with me. Like At the time, it was Tampa Bay and New England.
Or the New York Giants. No one wanted the New York Giants.
I got all the crap ones, yeah.
You needed to buy more pencils, Sean.
Fine.
Yeah, Sean, you shake your parents down, man. So.
All right. So I remember Dad came home one day after shopping at Sears, and this giant truck pulls up, and like 19 people pull our brand new TV set that had to weigh like 500 pounds, that had the speakers on the side of it, and the what we thought was a giant screen, but man, you had to have like a support system to keep it from crashing through the floor.
Your 20-inch screen.
Yeah.
Gigantic.
So in 1978, we lived in a house over there by the Valley Fair Mall rental my parents had, and it was hit by lightning. And then they found out, too, that they hadn't installed the lightning rods correctly in the home. So it blew out half the front wall where the TV was. Oh, yeah. When my parents were in the house, I was in bed. I didn't hear a damn thing. But later on in the morning, I wake up, walk into the living room, and half the walls burned down. I'm like, what the hell? Where's my and then I'm like, I love the TVs too. I was married to the TV literally at age 8.
Y'all were.
Yeah. And the damn thing didn't work. And my dad and mom at that point were like, they never purchased a TV again until we'd moved into that Jeanette Avenue house. And so I would have to go down to Glenn's house to go watch like Donnie and Marie, or if I wanted to watch cartoons on a Saturday morning, I had to go down to Glenn's house because my dad was so stubborn. He's like, I'm not getting a damn TV again. It screws you guys up. And
he was right.
But he finally relented because they came out with the new Sony Color remote TV. And then my dad is attracted to technology and he had to get it. And so I was like, yay, we got TV finally.
I remember we were the first people that had cable TV. And our remote wasn't a wireless remote. It was a thing that you held in your hand, and then it had this long wire that went to the box on the TV.
That's funny.
And then you had the thing on the TV, and like you could push like 32, and you could push like 67, and you could push, 2, on there and stuff. Yeah, that cable TV came out, and we went from like 3 channels to like 90.
I remember when you got that.
So were we coming to your house to watch TV at first? Is that what was going on?
Everybody came over. Everybody came over all the time.
Well, remember, I think this was in the mid-'80s. They had those projection TVs finally where they would, like Snowy River, we were at, I think the Cooper's house for young men's or young...
But they had like 3 colors,
Oh, they were horrible. Yeah, it was like... I'm supposed to be impressed by this. As a kid, I was thinking that. I was like, this kind of sucks. I'd rather go to a movie theater.
Get a blurry picture, like 3 colors, red, blue, and like green. That was it, Next, I've got the boombox, a.k.a. the Ghetto Blaster. And if you had 2 cassette tapes in it, like Matt did, Matt Batchelor had like the giant one that was as big as a kitchen table that was just enormous. And we would sit out front and have those things playing. Like we would go down the street. Kurt had his little Chevy Love truck, and would sit in the back singing "Ice Cream Man" from Van Halen, going down the street with the Ghetto Blaster cranked up all the time.
They were louder than the car stereo sometimes, right? They were
loud, super loud.
And then you had to have like
batteries.
You had to have 40D.
Yeah.
They were like so heavy because of the damn batteries.
Giant batteries, and there are like 90 of them in there.
You're like, can I hook up a car battery to save some batteries? It was expensive. D batteries were like $3 or $4 at the store, I thought. So
you'd have the ultra bass button that you could push.
That didn't do anything.
Yeah, that's funny.
One that's talked about. No, it did. It just made a little more boom in there.
Put a little distortion in it.
One that's kind of talked about from our generation a lot is the wall phone.
Oh, you still have one?
Whoa!
You still have one? I don't.
It doesn't work, but we got one there.
It just looks nice up there.
Doesn't it? Do you guys remember we would go on scout camps And then afterwards, we would all get together and we would watch pictures of our scout camp on the slide projector. A little round thing, project on the wall, push the button and stuff. Everything was on these little slides.
Instead of Facebook and sharing Facebook pictures, I remember my dad was into those projector trays. He had like 20 years of our lives in slides because he didn't believe in prints, because prints were low quality.
Yeah, the slides last longer.
Like the whole Zion's Canyon trip, he never would print them, which I would be nice to be able to print them and look at them in a photo book. No, he said the only time you can watch them is when we're all watching them together. And so it was kind of cool, though. I kind of missed that because we'd pop popcorn and we'd actually
watch it on the wall and stuff, you know.
It was weird. Stuff. It was weird. We wouldn't be texting. There was nothing to text, and it was dark, and we'd just talk like, "Hey, do you remember that?" And then you'd get all these stories that were kind of cool. That's kind of missing today.
Yep.
So
it is. Yep. Next up, the phone book. Every 3 months, you'd have it delivered onto your doorstep. You had the yellow pages, you had the white pages. You'd always go through and find your family's name on there and stuff, or you would prank call somebody. You'd randomly open the white pages and pick somebody and then prank call them, you know?
And you didn't have to pay a scam site $1.99 to look someone's phone number up like they do now.
Right.
Have you ever tried to look up someone's phone number online?
I don't
How
stalk
hard
people,
it is
Carl.
now? What?
I don't stalk people, sorry.
It's just so you...
I don't know if you remember this. So, you know, we were talking about one episode like MapQuest and stuff like that, where if you were in a different town, you'd print it out. I remember being in a town, and this is more in the 90s, but I'd be like in, I don't know, like Phoenix, and doing sales calls. And when I would arrive at my hotel, I'd get the white pages out from the hotel room, rip out the street guide, and then look at the addresses of all my customers and like have to go through the map and draw on there where they are, you know?
Yeah, that was normal. Or you'd have the yellow pages, but that same thing, they would rip out all the restaurants that we want to go to. Well, they weren't there because some idiot like Brent would go in and rip it out and then put it in his pocket and then probably throw it away later.
That brings up another thing.
Yeah, I remember that.
The telephone booths. You'd have to go into a telephone booth to look at the to look at the yellow pages to find that restaurant. Yeah.
And they were nasty. You'd see all these things like Debbie Does Johnny and F you.
Pages were stuck together.
And gross pencil. Yeah, there's a lot of juveniles back then.
All right. Magazine posters that you would hang on your wall.
Oh, yeah.
From
Lita
Sports
Ford.
Illustrated, Michael Jordan with the dunk, to... Oh, yeah.
Lita Ford?
Like, Circus Magazine. That's what it was.
What did your parents allow on your wall? Because my parents were pretty strict.
I had a couple bikini girls. I had 2 Van Halen posters. Dude, my wall was covered. There was, like, no blank space at all. I had Motley Crue. I had Metallica. I had AC/DC. I had 2 giant Van Halen posters.
Okay. I was thinking Sean was referring to something else covered. Well, your walls were covered.
I was. He just missed.
They weren't whitewashed, no.
Sticky wall. Anyway,
he had a sock for that.
Yeah, sports figures on mine. I had to I had my kittens pitch posters. So
I don't think I had any college sports, to be honest with you. Utes were terrible back then, so there's no need to put them up. But like I had Dominique Wilkins. I had that windmill dunk poster of his. I had a Spud Webb poster. And then, of course, Michael Jordan.
I had a Larry Bird poster, by the way. So,
of course you did.
Dominating over Magic Johnson.
Of course you did.
I don't know if you guys remember, on my door, I had the life-size poster of Magic Johnson.
Oh, that's right. I remember that. That showed your independence from your parents a little bit, you know, where you could put something up without them getting you too much trouble.
My man cave.
Yeah. Exactly. Dad's understood.
Video store movie rentals.
Yeah. Yeah, there was, okay,
and I missed
that. Didn't go away.
Yeah, well, I remember the first one.
Yeah. But they were, a date night. You would go with your date and go to the video, or like a new release would be out, and you'd hurry up and get there and hope you could get it in the new release section. And it was just excitement,
I remember, Yeah. So
when Netflix first came out, I don't know if you guys remember, but you would order a DVD from them, and they would mail it to you.
Oh,
and they had a return envelope that you would put it in and send back. I used to manufacture all those tie-back envelopes for them.
Oh, really? Okay.
Nice.
Yeah. And then they went to the online streaming eventually. Yeah.
Yep. One of my favorites was the MTV World Premiere videos. And the one I remember the most is Hot for Teacher from Van Halen, like being in church, and we were kind of talking about it in class and stuff like that, and then like, because it would come out at 6 p.m. on MTV, and they would advertise it through like the previous 2 weeks. And I remember when that thing came out, it was like hit and record on the VCR, and greatest thing in the world, man. It was so awesome.
MTV trivia. What was the very first video on MTV?
Video Killed the Radio Star.
All right, that's good. Good job, Brent. Yeah, it's true. And who sings that? Who sings that song? I wonder if you know
goodness.
that.
Goodness.
They're a one-hit wonder.
Yeah, that was it.
Yeah, they were popular in England.
They were an American band, weren't they?
They were the Buggles.
The Buggles.
Buggles.
Yeah,
that's a British name for sure.
Before, but
radio.
I think I'm going Japanese. I'm like, duh.
Oh yeah, there's all kinds of videos like that. Tons of them like that. Well, with that, do you remember taping your favorite song on Rock 103?
Oh yeah,
on the cassette tape in your boombox.
Absolutely.
And you would hope that there wasn't the prequel of the DJ,
And you try to time it perfect. It'd be like
you had recording there, so like they were all three held down, and then like you'd hit the pause button as soon as that DJ would shut up,
Yeah, it's like, shut up, man, because you told me this song's coming up. We're gonna hit it perfect. Yeah, exactly.
You know what's weird?
You guys remember putting a mixtape together?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
that was a lot of fun doing that, but it was always.
Who did you guys, Sean? Who did you make a mixtape for?
Oh, there was a couple girls.
You didn't have anybody to...
No, there were a couple girls. Yeah, okay. There was a girl named Lori. Yeah. Yep. It was fun.
Doe?
No, God. No, jeez Louise.
I thought that was... I mean, I'm sorry, but I thought that doing a mixtape for someone was kind of a simp move, unless you were in like a relationship with them,
Yeah, but Carl, you had to do it right. You put your foot in your mouth so many times that you probably just messed up the songs. Like you got to express yourself through that mixtape. You got to start it off simple, like I don't know, what's a good song? You don't start off with Radio Kill the Video Star or whatever, Video Kill the Radio Star.
Oh, you don't do like Pet Shop Boys up front, the first song, like West End Girls and East End
okay. No, you got
definitely not.
You got to go smooth. Like you got to start off,
Welcome to the Jungle.
Some Barry White.
No, you don't start off like that. You got to go
Hot for Teacher.
Maybe some Prince in there, and then move to some, I don't know, like you have to cater to her, not to you.
Girls, rock your boys and get wild, wild, wild.
Right.
Quiet Riot.
We're not gonna take it.
No, we're not gonna. You do it. You gotta.
Quiet Riot.
You gotta get the ballads.
You guys remember?
Not the fast songs, the ballads.
Oh, I know, man. I'm just I'm being a smart ass.
A lot of Journey. You gotta have some Journey sitting inside
Air Supply.
I know.
You gotta have
and then
some
you gotta have like Night Ranger.
This feeling any longer.
Too. You gotta have that, and then I know what you're talking about. Or Madonna, Crazy for You.
Oh yeah, I remember the one I made for your mom that started out with Sister Kristen.
Night Ranger, Sister Kristen. There you go. Foreigner. Yeah, Sticks. Everybody wanted Sticks for some reason. There was a song, I guess, on one of their albums that was
Babe.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah.
Babe.
No. Anyway, yep.
Do you guys remember New Coke?
Oh, it was horrible. It tastes like Pepsi.
Terrible.
Terrible.
It's about as...
I can't.
Diet Pepsi
was
terrible.
Pepsi
And it lasted
for
years, too. That's the thing.
No, I don't think it did.
Yeah, well, no.
I think it was
They really tried to push it, though, remember? They had all those commercials.
Was that a marketing
Well, they had that taste test. They'd
thing
always, put...
where they tried to get everybody upset?
I mean, it lasted for 5 years. It lasted for a while.
You got to look that up.
It was one of those things where Coke never asked anybody if they wanted new version of Coke. They just decided that we needed a new version of Coke, and no one liked it. I think they had to pull it eventually.
Yep, they did.
It's about as good as Bud Light, right?
The OG of texting notes in class. Putting a little note, sending it off to somebody, hoping that the teacher didn't catch it being passed and stuff. You pass it to this person. Hey, give it to so-and-so.
You know how the teachers cramped down on that? Because they'd read it to the whole class when they... Yeah, that ended that. I was like, oh, hell no.
Or did it? I made mine pretty graphic so that when it was read in class,
Oh, did you really? Did you really make it graphic? Oh, figures. You would. You probably had little stick figures simulating what you were talking about, too, didn't you?
I've got two more. I was thinking about this, with Amazon and how everybody does their stuff online. But do you remember the Sears catalog that would come out? That was you go through, you look at all the toys inside of Sears. You would circle what you wanted for Christmas and stuff, and the clothing. Of course, you look at the bra section.
I liked it for the bra and lingerie section. It was, see if I could actually see something like ooh,
different angles.
You'd be looking real into like, oh my God, I see something in there. Oh.
Am I going blind yet? Oh, no. I never went blind, guys. I never did. That was a myth, I decided.
There's nothing on my palms. There's just straight skin. Straight skin.
I tested that theory regularly. Of course, denied it the entire time growing up in church and everywhere else in mixed company. So
that's funny.
And the last one that I have, and Carl, this is more for you and I, but it was the Lakers-Celtics rivalry.
The best basketball ever.
Yep.
It was.
Never is.
It felt like it was like every week. It felt like it. But we know it wasn't. But, Lakers and Celtics. That was the whole 80s right there.
Haven't you watched some of the old basketball games on YouTube? I have, and compared it to now. It's like, it still was much more. I think people cared a little bit more, too, because it was the same guys. They didn't have free agents.
They were more loyal. Yeah. You're with the team forever.
I mean, I don't know how rich they were back then, but I just think they weren't as... I mean, they were about the basketball, the players and the personalities back then. It was more about the competition than it is now.
Can you imagine, Larry Bird saying, hey, Magic, and hey, Barkley, let's go to Houston and form this super team down there?
Never.
Yeah,
Never.
And Magic be like, fuck you. We're going to kick your ass as the Lakers,
This is my team. Yeah, yes. I know. Yeah, you would never see that. Never. Yeah.
Never. So that's my list of reminders from the 80s.
Thanks for listening to part 1. In a few days, we'll release part 2.
Thanks for listening to 3 Dad Bods, and make sure to catch their past episodes on Spotify, Apple, and Google, or wherever you get your podcasts. And make sure and leave a comment to help stroke their fragile egos.